this is one of the things I wanted to look at, because the Durham report, and I'm still reading through all of it, and it's, it's long, and I've been traveling and that kind of stuff, but it's a whole lot of nothing. It's a lot of narrative. It's a lot of storytelling, which is great for these guys and great for Republicans, because it's, it's written in places to be dramatic, but it doesn't present any new evidence that's going to turn anything, which is why he does not recommend prosecution of anyone. There are no recommendations for indictments in it. And the reason is because there is no there. And that's really the biggest drag on the. Remember I told you the story would deflate rather quickly? Yeah. It's why they're all over these FBI alleged whistleblowers, because they're whistleblowers about the Biden family stuff have vanished because they never existed anyways, and they don't have the paperwork they say they did, and it's all bullshit, blah, blah, blah. But these guys can come out and go, I was mishandled. As an employee, I felt slighted. They could, whatever. Anyways, but and the reason is because it's the best thing they have to move on from the Durham report, which just left them hanging. So this is Trish Regan on Durham's failure to indict a single perpetrator identified as part of the corruption. It's so sad. It's almost like either he's the worst person to put in charge of it, and he was a mistake the whole time, and he was never going to be able to do it, and Trump's a terrible judge of character and can't pick a professional to save his life, or they've always been full of shit and he just realized it and had to write a report anyways, and that's the best he could do.
Guys, I'm happy to welcome back to the podcast our friend Trish Regan, host of the Trish Regan Show.
Where do they get these show names?
The website, trishreganshow.com. She's also the editor of a multimedia.
And she's smiling. She's very smiling. Guys, it's smiling. Ha. And the Iraq
publishing company, trishintel.com.
Okay. Look, at least with Mega Worldwide, I'm joking. It's tongue-in-cheek. Trishintel.com.
Trish, welcome. Great to have you on the show. And wow, let me start with this business about the Durham report. I saw that Lindsey Graham was asked, what does he think should now happen? And he goes, well, I wish that someone at the FBI would call and apologize. So evidently, he thinks that an apology will set matters straight. Isn't it a fact that what...
I'm so... I can't even... It is too much. It's just the pressure of... I hope at some point, I guess someone will. It just backs up on me,
What Durham has confirmed, I won't say uncovered, because
yeah, because he hasn't.
A lot of people already knew this. But an elaborate triangular scheme involving the Clinton campaign on the one hand, the intelligence agencies on the other, and the media, the third partner in this operation, all putting out a complete disinformation operation.
No, not the case at all.
Clearly with the intent of influencing an election.
No, if that was the case, then the Clinton campaign would have released the dossier as soon as they got it. They would have thrown that bombshell out in the open. And you know what's funny is if they had, there's a chance that the Access Hollywood tape would have never come out, or it would have come out sooner, which is the gamble they had, or that more people would have come forward because, oh my God, this guy's so horrifying. But they decided they could win on the merits, and they made a mistake because faux-gressives held their nose and stayed home.
This was absolutely unbelievable. And
it's absolutely unbelievable. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. Yeah, yes, it is unbelievable. The Durham report is unbelievable. They keep saying this. It's the new outrage.
Just go back. I have lots of concerns about what they might be doing in 22, or did in 2020. Lots of concerns about what they might be doing now. But let's go back to what was going down there in 2016. I mean, you said it. I mean, this was an opposition research campaign.
Right. It was always that. And it was started by Republicans. The McCain Institute gave the dossier to the FBI before Steele did.
This was coming from a major law firm out of D.C. that was representing Hillary Clinton. And then they went out and got Fusion GPS, which was an Oppo research firm.
You know what? You're right, guys. Syntax doesn't matter. The order of these, when these organizations worked on this or what they did, it doesn't matter that Fusion GPS happened before and that they were hired initially, just like Christopher Steele, by Republicans. I know, you details.
Which then went and hired this ex-British spy who had a lot of contacts in Russia. He, in turn, Christopher Steele, hired a guy who, by the way, the United States government was concerned that the guy who fed all this information was a Russian spy himself.
This is a great time to bring up George Nader again. This should be our kind of go-to to remind everybody whenever they talk about like what they thought was like the FBI was talking to people, the Clinton had become a top. This guy had a meeting at Trump Tower, was ultimately charged with kidnapping and sex trafficking a 10-year-old boy from the Czech Republic. And his proclivities were well known. And just like Trump palling around with Epstein, maybe Trump didn't give a shit because his boys were too old for this guy at the time. But this guy checks all those boxes and then some. Ugh.
Oh, Igor Dachenko, if I got that name right. So, in other words, this was multi-layered. And what amazed me the most, Dinesh, and I'll just say this as a journalist,
Alleged journalist.
I'm very reluctant to go with something until I have multiple sources. And I always check those sources. And the other thing I do, Dinesh, is I think
That's what I do, Dinesh. Okay.
long and hard about the political bias or the financial bias, right? I cover the economy that a particular source may have. Are they shorting that stock? Is that the reason why they want to put out bad information? Or are they politically motivated because maybe if you trace this thing back, it goes back to a political source, as this one did in the case of Hillary Clinton? And so it shocked me from the very beginning.
No, it actually goes back to McCain not wanting Trump to be the party's choice to run for president before Hillary was even a factor.
Is how on earth our FBI would actually sign off on the wiretapping agreements to spy on American citizen and spy on the Trump campaign without having done the very basic due diligence that one would ask of oneself as a journalist, as a reporter. And then they were spoon-fed, the media was spoon-fed all this nonsense.
No, again, not nonsense. Again, what's nonsense is this is what would be the Barr summary report. No collusion, never mind, nothing to see here, and then that keeps you from looking at the depth of the, and if follow Mueller, she wrote, and go back and look at her breakdown of this. And again, you've got this George Nader dude working as an informal advisor, being their point person with the UAE because they're trying to stiff arm Qatar, which is an American ally. And they bring this dude in. And in the process of going after him in the Mueller report, because he's meeting with Russians in, where was it? He was working with Elliot Broidy. Broidy got a $2.5 million wire from Nader's company in the UAE. He was meeting with Kirill Dmitriev, head of Russia's $10 billion sovereign wealth fund, which God knows how much of that money ended up going through Deutsche Bank into Trump's coffers. According to the Mueller report, Nader and Dmitriev spoke at length about how Dmitriev was underwhelmed by the prince at the Seychelles meeting and wanted to meet with someone better connected. first pulled into Mueller's orbit in 2018. Nader was stopped by FBI agents, and that's where they uncovered that he had child pornography. And he's a disgusting monster, horrible, horrible human being, and worked with Jared Kushner and Donald Trump on the regular. After, by the way, previous convictions for this stuff.
You had all these
and by the way, always Republicans running interference for him.
Spy hacks like John Brennan out there insisting it was true. It was all false.
No, it wasn't. And no journalist would say it's all false, almost about anything this big.
And so I think that just has to have us take a step back like that.
Yeah, we got to step back and then step forward and then step back and step forward. Now we're cha-chaing.
That's what we need to do right now. Some heads ought to roll at the FBI. Anybody that has these political biases.
Yeah, they did. They got rid of those assholes. They got to testify, but they lost their jobs. Oh, you don't mean them?
It is not called for. It is unacceptable. They should not have that kind of position in government.
No, Trish, as we dig through the Durham report, it's very obvious. Like, for example, Danchenko, the guy that you referenced, made all these wild allegations about a P-tape and so on. And supposedly he got it from another guy named Sergei Millian. We see in the Durham report, he didn't know Sergei Millian. He never talked to the guy. He basically made this up. And then you're saying a normal checking process would be, well, who'd you get it from?
Yeah. And by the way, the FBI didn't give a fuck about the PP tape stuff. The elements of the Mueller of the dossier that dealt with like salacious and disgusting behavior by Trump, the FBI didn't give a fuck about that stuff. They only went and looked at stuff that they had already had intel about elsewhere, that this seemed to be another, at least whisper campaign around these certain topics, financial topics, that would add more fuel to a fire that was already burning. The FBI did not ask for fucking Trump's urine.
They call that guy, right? The FBI didn't do any of this.
Yeah, because they weren't going. Why would? That's where all the salacious stuff went for. And again, none of it's a crime. The FBI is not. This might shock people, but it is not in the FBI's jurisdiction to concern themselves when sheets are micturated upon, in the words of the Big Lebowski, in a foreign country. Of course they didn't look into it. Of course they didn't ask questions. They didn't give a shit. Why should they?
Do you think they didn't do any of this because they simply...
No, they didn't do any of this because that's not a crime. It's just gross.
Lost their competence and were suckered? Or do you think, I think more likely, the FBI totally knew what was going on. They totally knew that this was a framing of...
They totally knew that this wasn't legally their responsibility.
And they were like, we're not going to check because frankly, if we check, we might discover that we can't go forward.
Again, how and why would the FBI verify the PP tape idea? Other than if he's being, if the idea that Trump is being blackmailed by it. That would be the only area. And there are only a couple of ways that they could do that. One is a direct question. Ask somebody in his orbit, hey, is, when somebody gets kidnapped or whatever, and the kidnapper says, don't talk to the authorities, don't talk to the FBI, and the FBI has to contact the person on the down low in case the kidnappers or the blackmailers are aware of the contact and kills the person or does something damaging. Like that happens on occasion. But if there's no complaint, the only area where, I guess technically speaking, even in that wouldn't be the FBI's purview until it is verified as a crime within the country, meaning that they have some evidence that he's being blackmailed over this, or they have some point of control, and they wouldn't be even able to get the evidence of it would be the quid pro quo. He did something particularly weird, like, I don't know, defend Russia at every turn, that would make you go, hey, maybe there is a PP tape. And by then, it was already years in.
Well, wouldn't it have occurred to someone at the FBI to maybe have called the hotel and gotten the hotel records? And then maybe they would have found out that, guess what? Donald Trump didn't even stay there. I mean, there were.
Yeah, that's why would the FBI believe any information on a presidential on that level that would come out of Russia? Do you think? I mean, is the guy at the hotel where this happened, if they are blackmailing him, going to tell you the truth? You can't subpoena him. If you do, you'll never get him. And if he comes and testifies, it could very well be that he gets pushed out of a third floor window.
All these things that they could have, should have done. And I was like, gosh, I mean, I read the thing, right? Because it got published on BuzzFeed, and I personally wouldn't have chosen to publish it. I believe everybody should be able to read whatever, but
I would have run interference for Trump because I love him.
I thought it was irresponsible of them to do so, only because it was so obviously opposition research. And then people were.
Yeah, that's what it was. Everybody knew that's what it was. That's what it was for initially.
Running around treating it like gospel over on MSNBC. You know, the conspiracy just kept getting more wild and more wild. But yes, Dinesh, these are.
Yeah, no. You can't get wilder than PP tapes. You just can't. I'm sorry. It quite frankly pegged the meter.
The things that.
And by the way, the fact that, you know what got wilder and wilder at the time? Wasn't the dossier stuff. It was the Access Hollywood tape.
Should have done. So why didn't they? We have to ask ourselves, and we have to ask them that. That's why we should have everybody up. I want to see them all on Capitol Hill, and I want to see them answer these questions. Why didn't you ask the logical stuff that they teach you in, like, you know, any basic journalism class at a community college? Like, why isn't the FBI doing that?
Why aren't you doing it? Dinesh clearly isn't. Here's a good question. Ask Dinesh why, in the reenactment moments where they used an actor pretending to be someone ballot stuffing in 2000 Mules, that they did not put on the screen reenactment or lead off the movie by saying this movie contains scenes that are, you know, some actual footage and some reenactments. Why just put the guy in the credits at the end as an actor but not say it during the course of the film, especially over the footage? Because people are going to believe that the guy sneaking in at night, stuffing things into the ballot box in the middle of the night, shot from, you know, a sketchy car camera. They thought that was real. Trump thinks it's real.
And I suspect, well, it's one of two reasons: total incompetence, which should have us quite fearful.
I don't know. I think it's a great podcast title for you and Dinesh.
Or it was politically motivated. It may have been, in fact, and I'm being generous here, it may have been a combination of both. Yes, they're incompetent, but boy, oh boy, did they want to get him. They wanted to get him bad, and so they.
Why? Just because they don't like his face? Just because they don't like MAGA? Or the whole grab him by the pussy thing and constantly defending Russia and sucking up to our opponents and stiff-arming our allies and all the legit intel that they've seen because they couldn't act on because it fell into their lap because of warrants that they had against awful people all over the world that magically he was making contact with. That's the stuff they can use. You want to get Trump in more trouble? Bring those people that she's talking about in and make them testify under oath and give them, you know, freedom to speak openly about classified matters on, you know, of Trump's relationship with Russia.
Were willing to overlook things, right? They had their answer for that equation already. They had the answer, and now they just needed to plug in the dots and plug in whatever algorithm was going to get them there. And
algorithm, that's adorable.
Didn't want to listen to anything that might negate that.
When we come back, more with Trish Regan.
No, I'm sorry. We're done with Trish Regan because she didn't say anything. You didn't say anything. She didn't say anything, but I said a lot because I'm Hal Sparks, and this is Hal Sparks Mega Worldwide. Hey, look how it blinked in right when I said that. It's almost like a magic trick.